Good morning, welcome to a new video tutorial. And in this one, I'm going to be editing and kind of allowing you guys to see the process. So editing with me. So maybe grab a cup of coffee. I actually made a quick little espresso here. And as you can see, we've upgraded the office just a little bit. Got some curtains and also this light. Actually got this on secondhand shop. It's called This and That. It was a cool experience. It's like a treasure hunt here in Arusha. So in today's video, I'm gonna show you guys how you can edit your images to have kind of a filmic look using a plugin by Dehancer. The plugin, you can install it into Lightroom and Photoshop, and you'll be able to edit with a bunch of film stocks, and also you'll be able to add some grain, halation, and you can also add some bloom, all these effects that you get when you're shooting with film. Okay, so let's jump into Lightroom right now, and then I'll show you exactly what this is about. These images I captured while I was in Serengeti, so there's a bunch of images here. I'll just scroll through so you can check it out. Sometimes I shoot quite underexposed. Wow. Sometimes I shoot quite underexposed so that I'm able to bring out the details. Sometimes I want to get the clouds in the situation. The sun was setting over here, and I wanted to get a bit of the detail here of the small little mountain at the end there. If I exposed for this area, this entire place up here would have been totally blown out. So sometimes I shoot underexposed. Actually, most of the time, maybe by one stop, so that I'm able to get a lot of the detail. It's easier to get the details from the shadows than rescuing details when they're overexposed. Next image, sun setting over Serengeti view landscape with a tree in the middle. This is the sunset scene. This is a scene just after the rains had stopped, so it was looking really beautiful. A lot of warm tones in these images. I like, the golden hour moments. And then a back shot in the room and a view of the landscape. So let's start it out. So first things first, I could just bring up a bit of the exposure over here. Let's see. Up the shadows, reduce a little bit of that. What I like to do is the tone curve tool. So for the first image, I will do a bit of a walkthrough while I'm speaking, and then the other ones, I'll just kind of edit and you guys can see with a little bit of music in the background. Let's jump here. Let's bring up the S curve. Might have dropped that down too much. I don't know if you're like me. When I started using the tone curve, I was just like, what the hell is this tool, man? How do I use it? And I think it's one of the most powerful tools on Photoshop and Lightroom. Definitely one you can use to get some contrast in your image. And basically what you're doing here is you have your shadows at the far left, midtones in the middle, and your highlights in the far right. And what you're doing is you're manipulating the colors in those spectrums. So if I want to bring in, right now I'm in the blue channel, if I want to bring in more blue in the shadow, I'll bring this up. If I want to reduce the blues and bring in some yellows, I just reduce it a little bit over here. As you can see, the blue channel, you have blue at the top point and yellow at the bottom point. In the green, you have green at the top point and magenta at the bottom. And then on the red channel, you have reds at the top and blues at the bottom. I think that's correct. Okay, so if I want to bring up the reds in the highlights, I'll bring it up over here. If I want to bring some of the blues or cyan in the highlights, I'll drop it down over here. And you can do control points. So these are just control points that you're placing so that you don't affect certain areas. So if I put a control point here in the middle, the midtones won't shift a lot as I adjust the highlights. Okay, so here I'll just bump it up a little bit. I just want to bring it right over here in the line and I'll be good. So before and then after, before, after. I'm happy with that. What I'll do is also bring up a bit of the shadow over here, drop it down the highlights because I want to get some of those details up here. And what I like to do as well is kind of drop the clarity just a little bit. I'll pump the exposure up a little bit for this shot. And what I can do here as well is just play around with the HSL slider. I can see that I would like the colors here for the wood to be just a little bit on the red side. It's a bit too yellow. So I'll move the oranges to a bit of the red side. Just a little bit, minus 13. That's fine. Let's jump into the greens. The greens, I might reduce the saturation here, and then I might move the hue to the right side here. So I'm making the greens a bit more bluish, I would say. So they pop a little bit, at the same time reducing the saturation, because I don't want the saturation for the greens to be too strong. I could also move the yellow slider to play around with the yellow tones. So here you're just affecting specific areas. So if it's yellows, if it's greens, but this specifically, I'm affecting the hue of the yellow and green. So whether the yellow should be more towards orange or whether it should be more towards green. And if I move it to the left side, the yellows become more orange. If I move it to the right side, the yellows become more green. This green I do not like. So what I want to do is just push it back just a little bit to this direction on the orange side, and I'm happy with that. We can do it before, after. So you can see before it was a bit too yellow, and now it's a bit more realistic. We get those rich colors, and I'm happy with that. So the next stage is that if I want to now add in the Dehancer effect, what I'll do is right click on the image, and I would say edit, and I'll do edit in Dehancer Lightroom plugin. So let's jump here. It says edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. I say edit, and then now we'll jump into a different panel. This panel will now allow me to edit on the Dehancer plugin. So as you can see here, there's a lot of different film profiles. These are all film profiles from different film stocks. CineStyle 800T. You have Fujifilm. A lot of the ones which I know are Fuji Chrome, Provia. I like Fuji Color Nutra 1600, and also Kodak color. So we'll try it out to see how it looks. Let's see here. What can we use for this one? Provia. That's interesting. Before, after. You can also do it before and after here. So before, after. Kind of like that. You can also have Velvia here. The highlights have a bit of a cyan look to it. I think I like this look. Let me see if there's any other ones here. Some of them are quite intense, and if they're intense, you're also able to push and pull. So you can push and pull, and all the different film stocks have different push and pull effects. Some bring in a bit of the brightness up, some drop it down. I'm not really super technical with film stocks, but I just know what looks good, and I like to play around with different ways of editing. So in this particular one, I think I'm actually happy with the first one which I used, which was Fujifilm Chrome Provia, which is here. So before, after, and I'm happy with that. And then now here on the right side is you're able to adjust the temperature. Basically all the adjustments that you could do also on Lightroom, it's just called differently. So you can have the black point here, you're basically expanding, you're making it less darker in the blacks, or you can increase it, so adding contrast. And with the white point, you can increase the brightness in the whites, or you can reduce it, okay? So it just depends on what your preference is like. So I'll just put it over here, I'm happy with that. And I can actually adjust as well here the profile of the print. I can have it Kodak Endura glossy paper, or I can have the Kodak 2383 print film, or linear, okay? Or if you're working with log profiles, you can also use the log profile. So I generally use Kodak Endura glossy paper or the print film. So this works for this image. You can also adjust, again, the same thing similar to the tone curve tool over here in the color head. Yellow, blue, magenta, green, cyan, red, okay? So you can play around with that. And you can also add film grain. As you can see here, it's already added a bit of grain into this image. So before, after. So if you want a little bit of that filmic grain onto your image, before, after, and you can also reduce the amount of grain you have in the shadows, in the midtones, in the highlights. So you can just decide how much grain you actually want in the image. I'm happy with that. It's not too intense. Before, after. Okay, scroll back out. And if you look at film photos, a lot of times they have halation, which is this kind of like red type of halation around the image, some parts of the image. So as you can see, if I switch it on, you will see some of this halation kind of glow or red around, which you find a lot in film photos. So before, after, and you can actually reduce the impact so it's not too intense. So before, after, before, no, this is after. This is before and then after. So just a little bit, you can actually reduce the local diffusion and also the global diffusion. I think that's fine. You don't want it to be too intense. I'm happy with that. And you can add bloom as well. This is the kind of like glow that you get in film photos. Again, you can also reduce the impact of that so it's not too strong. And then finally, the final thing that you can adjust is vignette. So you can add a bit of vignette as well. I'm not going to add vignette for this particular image. I'm happy with how it looks. We can also do a preview here and see a before and after. So this is before and then this is after. So that's the effect that I've gotten from this image, just the final touch. And I can actually save this preset. Actually, let me see here. I can save it and let's say edit with me. Add preset. So then that will take all the adjustments that I've done and also the film stock that I've selected, so that when I bring in the other image onto this plugin, it's going to add the same effect on the other images. So let's do that, and I'll show you the final result afterwards. Next step, let's jump into Dehancer and add that preset that we actually created. Click the preset tab, select the preset that I used before, and then boom, everything is done. I can come here and maybe reduce the grain, maybe if I don't want it to be too much. So reduce that. And then I'm happy with that. Select this image and do the same thing. I'm gonna speed up this process so you guys can just see what I'm doing. Okay, done. So this is the entire process. Editing in Lightroom, then after that, using the Dehancer plugin to get the final touch. Here's the before and after of the first image, and again, drone shot with the other image. Beautiful scenes. I like the colors that are coming out. I like the fact that you're able to add in the filmic grain and also do additional adjustments there to tweak it to get that final color. I love the film stocks that are available, and everything looks really great, man. I like the colors that are coming out. And this is very interesting. It's an interesting plugin. I think if we're looking at pros and cons, I like the fact that in terms of pros, I like the fact that you're able to get all those film stocks. You're able to add the halation and also the bloom in your images, and also add this real film grain into your image. I think the thing with the con that I don't really like is the disruption in terms of like my workflow, because every single time like I have to edit the image, I have to then move it onto the plugin interface. And that kind of, kills the workflow for me. But then for individual images that I'm editing, this works perfectly. All right, so that is the Dehancer plugin. You can check it out if you're interested in getting those film stocks for your edits, and also the little additional tweaks like the halation, bloom. Check them out. The links are down below, and you can use my code OGS10 to get a discount. Let me know what you think about the plugin. Comment down below. Catch you guys on another video. Thank you for tuning in. That's about it for me today. Peace out. Take care. See you soon. Oh, and always remember, stay safe and stay creative.